The FBI is the most sophisticated law enforcement agency in the world, pursuing the most dangerous criminals. When a 9-year-old boy vanishes from a school bus stop,
it's the worst feeling in the world. We didn't know if we'd ever see Jimmy again.
the Bureau mobilizes.
We were getting leads from every person you can imagine.
I had a vision that he was buried under trees, more than one tree. I did see black containers.
I knew that I was dealing with somebody that was super intelligent, super cunning. It was a chess match.
FBI, Criminal Pursuit. September 11th, 1995. It's about 3 p.m. when 9-year-old Jimmy Rice steps off his bus in the Miami farming community known as the Redlands.
It's very different from the way most people envision Miami. It's a rural type area, just a lot of things to do for kids, and none of the problems that you have in a city.
Jimmy walks the short distance home for his Monday piano lesson.
We were about the 4th house down from the intersection. You just walk home, it'd take him a minute or two.
Normally, Jimmy's mother is home to greet him. But this day, Jimmy's 18-year-old neighbor is babysitting, while the Rices are out of town on a business trip and birthday celebration. Around 3:30 p.m., several hours north of the Rice home, Don walks in the hotel room and finds his wife in a panic.
Jimmy didn't come home from school today. For his lesson, we have to go home.
She was teary-eyed and very upset. And yes, I knew when I first saw her there's something wrong. And that's when she told me. I just called, and Jimmy hadn't showed up at the house yet. And not only hadn't taken the lesson, but no one knows where he is.
Jimmy has not returned home from school.
Jimmy was the kind of kid that you could really count on. Some kids, if they disappear, you think, well, they've done it again. But with Jimmy, if he said he was going to be somewhere, wanted to be somewhere, needed to be somewhere, that's what he would do.
Don immediately calls the house again and speaks with his older son, Ted.
I said, please check around the neighborhood. I don't believe that he would have done this, but he may have somehow forgotten about the lesson. Could you check and see there were a couple of neighborhood kids where he would, go from time to time to play.
But Jimmy is nowhere to be found. A call to his school confirms he rode the bus home that day. The Rices don't waste any time. They immediately check out of their hotel and start driving the 2.5 hours back home. As they speed south down Florida's turnpike, Don calls the Miami-Dade Police, who alert the missing persons unit. The Rices hope for the best.
We kept thinking, well, for God's sake, something is wrong, but maybe they'll find Jimmy and it'll turn out to be something innocent.
Even so, they can't help but fear the worst. That someone has taken Jimmy to try and extort money from them.
We thought if there were kidnappings, it would be for ransom. And that was what we were thinking had occurred, that some person thought, well, these people have a really nice house, everything, they must have some money. It's the worst feeling in the world. You don't know where your kid is, and he's not the kind of kid to just disappear like that. Something was seriously wrong.
What happened?
Miami-Dade Police is already on the scene when the Rices pull up to their gated home a few hours later. A helicopter circles overhead. Lead missing persons unit detective Juan Murias heads up the search.
When a child goes missing, it's one of our biggest priorities. We go to all lengths to try and follow up as many leads as we can.
Investigators question Jimmy's babysitter and get a description of what Jimmy was wearing that morning. White sneakers, jean shorts, a white shirt, and a brown and green backpack with a suede bottom. The babysitter tells police that the boy had woken up late that morning and missed his bus.
Fred arranged for his girlfriend to drive Jimmy to school, but when she showed up, he wouldn't get in the car first with her, and Fred had to say, oh, it's okay, before he would.
I don't know her. She's a stranger.
Don't worry, she's my girlfriend. We're gonna be late for school. Come on. It's all right.
It's clear that Jimmy is well trained to avoid strangers. But where is he? Investigators canvass 2 miles on both sides of Jimmy's home, but turn up empty-handed. As night approaches, they head off to run down more leads. Detective Murias is still hopeful there is an innocent explanation for Jimmy's disappearance.
Most of these cases, what we do is you got to give it a little time to see if anything will come up for the next day. Most of these kids will end up at a friend's house overnight without their parents knowing about it.
Don and Claudine aren't so sure. Sick with worry, they search their home for any sign of their little boy.
We looked in car trunks and trash cans, everywhere where we thought he might have been hiding. So we spent the night awake. We got 5 minutes sleep, I doubt it.
The next day comes and goes with no change. By Wednesday, September 13th, Jimmy has been missing for almost 48 hours. Investigators are now certain that something is terribly wrong.
We definitely looked at it very seriously, thinking that someone probably had kidnapped him.
Miami-Dade PD need help, and they need it fast. They reach out to the worldwide experts in child abduction cases, the FBI. They alone have the resources and investigative manpower to bring Jimmy home. Special Agent Rick Lunn hits the ground running.
It's crucial to attempt to locate the child within the 24 to 48 hour time frame because in previous cases, that has been identified as the most likely time frame that the child will remain alive. And so if we can identify or locate the child, it's better odds that we will recover the child.
Special Agent Lunn's urgency is personal as well.
I had a 10-year-old boy at the time, and I only lived a few miles away from the Rice residence. So the case really hit home. It really brought into the fact that this could happen to anyone.
Agents need to learn everything about Jimmy Rice to find clues about what happened to him. They interview family and friends and search his room to put together a victimology.
He was a typical 9-year-old boy who loved sports and school and music. He was a good student. He was a good kid, a child you would look at and feel like he was your own.
Though Jimmy seems to have a loving family, FBI Special Agent Wayne Russell, a 12-year veteran with the Bureau, knows that appearances aren't always as they seem.
The home, unfortunately, can be a very dangerous place for a child. I didn't know if walking into the home, whether or not I was walking into a crime scene.
Investigators must find out who took Jimmy fast. And at this point, no one can be ruled out as a suspect, even the most trusted friends and family.
We want to identify a person of interest as quickly as possible. So we start from the inside. Who was closest to Jimmy?
It's been 48 hours since 9-year-old Jimmy Rice disappeared just blocks from his home in Miami, Florida. Investigators are working around the clock to figure out who took him and why.
Everybody works a lot harder on these cases. It hits home with a lot of people that have children, and children are innocent, and people work a lot harder on them, and they take it to heart a lot more.
With few leads to go on, everyone is a suspect, even close family.
One of the basic things you have to do early on in an investigation is to clear the family. And that means starting with the mother, father, and siblings.
Special Agent Wayne Russell starts questioning Don and Claudine Rice, listening carefully to their answers.
They asked, have we had an argument with him? Was there any reason why he was upset with us? Obviously, seeing if there was some reason to believe he'd run away.
I was looking for an explanation to what precipitated the abduction of Jimmy Rice, and whether that's inside the home or external outside the home. I was just trying to determine what happened.
Agent Russell learns that Don has 2 children from a previous marriage. Don and Claudine married later in life and were surprised when they conceived Jimmy.
When Claudine and I got married, we had no idea that we could still have a child. It was a tremendous surprise, but a joyful one too.
Claudine and Don appear to be kind, loving parents. They agree to take a polygraph, which confirms they are telling the truth.
Jimmy didn't run away. He had a very good life, a very happy life with his family.
But agents have learned something important. Don and Claudine are both attorneys and initially thought this may be tied to extortion. Could their legal work have created enemies who have targeted Jimmy for revenge?
Could there be bad litigation or an irate client, anything that would lead me to believe that there was some type of retribution towards the family?
And the Rice's suspicion that Jimmy is being held for ransom can't be ruled out.
A ransom kidnapping is one of the first things you think about when you have a family like the Rice family. They're both prominent figures in the community, fairly well off, in a good neighborhood.
Agents tap the Rice's phone in case a ransom call comes in. Then, they take a closer look at one of the last people to see Jimmy alive, his babysitter. He admits he was late arriving home the afternoon Jimmy disappeared, but has an excuse.
Fred had to do some shopping. He was, cooking as part of what he was doing.
The babysitter's alibi checks out. Investigators also interview Jimmy's half-brother, Ted. His alibi checks out as well. Those closest to Jimmy have been cleared of any suspicion. Special Agent Russell widens the investigation and interviews Jimmy's bus driver to see if she witnessed anything unusual when he was dropped off.
Maybe she took a license tag down, anything that would give us, any information that would lead us to what happened to Jimmy.
But the bus driver doesn't recall anything out of the ordinary. She simply dropped him off, and he walked away. Detectives focus on the street where Jimmy was last seen. They begin knocking on doors, questioning neighbors. Finally, they uncover something suspicious. One neighbor admits he wasn't on good terms with 9-year-old Jimmy.
There was a particular neighbor that lived on the side of the Rices that told me how Jimmy had thrown a rock and broken one of his windows.
When questioned further, the neighbor becomes defensive.
All right, I'm done with you guys. That's it.
And won't tell police where he was when Jimmy went missing. He refuses to take a routine polygraph test, which raises another red flag. Police set up surveillance on the neighbor and begin watching him closely.
Dawn and Claudine Rice are still optimistic. There's no sign their boy is dead. That's reason enough to believe he's still alive.
Meanwhile, authorities organize volunteers to canvass nearby areas. While police search by land and air, volunteers distribute flyers showing Jimmy's smiling face and a number to call in tips.
You couldn't go anywhere without seeing it on a telephone pole or at the stores or anywhere.
But each day begins and ends the same, without Jimmy Rice. Special Agent Russell knows the chances of recovering Jimmy safely are greater if someone is holding him for ransom.
It wouldn't be in their interest to harm the child, because they would just, lose their leverage.
But no ransom call comes in. And with each passing moment, investigators suspect the worst, that Jimmy was abducted by a sexual predator. They explain their fear to Jimmy's parents.
I believe it was an FBI agent who first sat down with us and explained that there were a lot more abductions than we had any idea that occurred in this country, and that the usual motive was sexual. That was horrifying.
Investigators search the sex offender registry for anyone who lives within a 10-mile radius of the Rice's house.
We discovered that we had about 27 registered sex offenders living in this area, rural area, down in the Redlands. And at that point, we started looking at these individuals very closely.
They begin contacting and thoroughly interviewing every known offender. At the end of the first week, a candlelight prayer service is held at a nearby park. The Rices use the opportunity to get in front of the media.
We were told a local search alone was not going to be enough, that he could be anywhere in the country, and that the search had to go national. So we were constantly trying to get his picture and his story out through as many different ways as possible.
They hit an obstacle when they learn it's illegal to post photos of missing children in federal buildings.
We were angry because we couldn't put Jimmy's picture on the wall in government buildings. We first heard about it when they were tearing the posters down.
They immediately lobby the Florida governor and President Bill Clinton to change the law.
Volunteers passing out petitions at the Rice home to be sent to President Clinton. They are asking the chief executive to pass a new law allowing pictures of missing children to be posted in all federal buildings, such as post offices.
The family offers a reward of $100,000 if Jimmy is returned before his 10th birthday on September 26th.
We were prepared to sell everything we had to come up with the money. You'll do anything to get your child back.
The reward sets off a firestorm of leads.
Some citizens would call in with legitimate calls, claiming to have seen Jimmy Rice's book bag on the side of the road. We would go and there would be one there, but it wouldn't be identified with Jimmy in any way.
And I might have some information regarding the Jimmy Rice case.
One tip in particular stands out. Anna Arizaga, a psychic who lives near the Rices, has heard about Jimmy. And she has a frightening hunch about where he is.
I had a vision that he was buried under trees, more than one tree. I did see black containers, but that's as far as I saw in my vision. I didn't get an address, I didn't get a specific place.
Could the psychic be the key to finding Jimmy? 9-year-old Jimmy Rice has been missing for more than a week. Investigators fear he's been taken by a sexual predator, but are hopeful he's still alive. Anna Arizaga, a psychic who lives nearby, has had a dark vision that says otherwise.
At the time, I felt that he was dead. I did see that he was buried nearby or under some trees. some pots, black pot holders. But psychics don't get a street sign. You don't always know exactly where. You can describe the area. But Miami has a lot of trees.
Investigators take down Anna's information. It's one of hundreds of leads they are diligently following, hoping for a break in the case. But despite their efforts, Jimmy's 10th birthday arrives with no sign of him. The Rices throw Jimmy a party and invite the media.
Wouldn't trade you for anything. Happy birthday, son.
We had the presents and opened them up. And after the media left and the hubbub ended, we just sat there, feeling like the house was empty. We didn't know if we'd ever see Jimmy again.
On October 4th, nearly 3 weeks into the investigation, a phone call changes everything.
911 emergency. Okay, what's your location?
An anonymous caller says they saw Jimmy in a car more than 3 hours away.
We received a lead coming out of Key West that in a Camaro, primer color Camaro, there was a white male driving, and they felt that they saw somebody that looked like Jimmy Rice in the front seat.
Could Jimmy still be alive?
They were pretty positive based on the description and the flyers that they had seen that this was definitely him down there.
Detectives race to track down the Camaro. They find it, and a boy who looks like Jimmy. But it's not him. For weeks, authorities have been conducting surveillance on the Rice's next-door neighbor, a man who said Jimmy had broken his window. The neighbor refused to tell police where he was the day Jimmy went missing. After several interviews, he finally cooperates and reveals something surprising.
He gave us an alibi that he was at one of our policemen's house at the time of Jimmy's disappearance.
Check with him. He'll verify my story.
We confirmed this with the policeman, but we were still kind of puzzled of why he had never told us this before.
Once again, a strong lead has led nowhere. The odds of finding Jimmy, alive or dead, are shrinking. Yet agents are relentless in their search.
The FBI was not giving up. That wasn't going to happen. We weren't going to stop looking. So it was really just a matter of time, and we were going to find Jimmy one way or the other.
Detectives continue checking the alibis of every known sex offender in the area. One man in particular, a bread delivery truck driver, raises their suspicions.
This is an individual had approached one of Jimmy's best friends about a quarter of a mile from Jimmy's residence, and he had exposed himself, and as a result he had gotten arrested for lewd and lascivious.
The man is clearly a danger to the community. What else could he have done? Investigators place the driver under close surveillance. On November 1st, 51 days after Jimmy vanished, investigators finally get another break. A police officer in Clearwater, Florida, claims she saw Jimmy Rice at a restaurant.
Based on it being a police officer lead, right away we thought that was another viable lead.
The officer says a boy resembling Jimmy was with two men and a woman. The boy appeared to be intimidated by the adults.
It was kind of a strange situation where it was awkward and they didn't really think that the child belonged to the people.
She watched as the group got into a van with religious markings and drove off. If the police officer is right, Jimmy Rice may be alive. FBI agents and local detectives race to the scene. They're in luck. Police spot the van in a driveway of a nearby home. They knock on the front door, looking for a glimpse of Jimmy. A man comes to the door and identifies himself as a reverend in a local church, and he introduces his son, who resembles Jimmy. but isn't him. Once again, it's a false sighting. Agents continue to focus on their most promising person of interest, the bread delivery driver who works in Jimmy's neighborhood.
This individual was in the area, he had reason to be in the area, and he also had a criminal past of crime against a child.
They make arrangements to bring the driver in for a polygraph test. Around the same time, in early December, the Rices leave Miami for the first time since Jimmy disappeared months earlier. Their story is being featured on a national talk show.
We thought it was a great opportunity and situation for us.
The Rices traveled more than 1,300 miles away from their home. Little do they know, the truth about what happened to Jimmy is right around the corner. It's December 1995, and Dawn and Claudine Rice have traveled across the country to talk on national television about their son Jimmy's disappearance. Back in Miami, about 7 miles away from the Rice home, Susan Shinehouse notices she's missing an expensive pair of earrings.
I wanted a piece of jewelry to give to Angela, which was my son's girlfriend at the time. So when I went to go look for the jewelry, the pieces that I was particularly looking for to give Angela were gone.
She also discovers that she is missing a .38 caliber pistol from her drawer. On December 6th, she visits psychic Anna Arizaga for advice.
Sometimes I get psychic visions, I get feelings or intuitions about the person, and I also use tarot cards, kind of like a tool that helps me clarify what I'm seeing is correct or it gives me specific answers.
Anna sits down with Susan for a reading.
I saw that she was very distraught. She was worried about something. I told her she was looking for something. There were several items that she's looking for.
The psychic can sense that Susan is missing something shiny, perhaps jewelry. She tells Susan the items are in a trailer on her property, but that's not all she sees.
I started getting a sense of urgency. It was very important for her to go in that trailer. There was something for her to retrieve.
The trailer is occupied by 28-year-old Juan Carlos Chavez, a native of Cuba. Chavez has worked on Susan's ranch for the past year in exchange for free housing. Susan trusts him completely.
He had access to my house. My house was never locked. I mean, he did anything I asked him to do. I never had a problem with him.
Susan can't believe Chavez would steal from her. But she arranges to get in his trailer while he's gone.
I made arrangements with my dad because I had to get Juan Carlos off the property so I can go into the trailer. And I had my dad take him out for the entire day. I had prearranged a locksmith to come and open the door.
Susan enters the trailer. She is shocked to discover her missing gun on a table and her earrings. And then she finds something else. While searching in a closet, she sees a child's book bag. Confused, she runs to get her son.
I told my son, go in the trailer and I need you to go look at this book bag. There's something funny about this book bag.
Her son retrieves a textbook from the bag. On the inside cover, written in children's handwriting, is a name. Jimmy Rice.
And the next thing I know, this horrible screaming, screeching was at the French doors. It was my son screaming, it's Jimmy Rice's book bag. Jimmy Rice's book bag.
Like everyone else in their community, Susan knows who Jimmy Rice is. She immediately calls the FBI.
Susan Shinehouse calls, screaming and yelling on the phone that she has found Jimmy Rice's book bag. So I'm trying to get the information out of her, where she lives, what her address is, so we can come and talk to her. But she is very, very emotional at that time.
Right away, my gut told me, okay, we're on it, because there's no way that this person kept that book bag without having to be involved.
We just stopped right there and started thinking about everything we had to do to resolve this case immediately.
Susan is terrified Chavez will arrive home before agents can respond.
I was very scared. Juan Carlos was with my father at the time. Now at this point I'm worried, is he gonna find out he's with my dad? What is he gonna do to my dad?
Agents arrive within minutes at the Shinehouse Ranch. They enter the trailer and search for Jimmy. There is no sign of the little boy, but there is plenty of disturbing evidence.
And I see the gun on the counter. Then I see a poster of Jimmy Rice on the table by the gun underneath some books, and then go in the closet and see Jimmy Rice's book bag there.
Special Agent Lunn grills Susan about Juan Carlos Chavez.
Got on the scenes. All right. Okay. What time do you expect him to be back?
I don't know. I'm worried it could be any time
So I wanted to find out more information about him and basically who we're dealing with. And I asked her, where does this guy spend his time? What does he like to do? Where did he go the most?
Susan remembers Chavez had taken a special interest in the Jimmy Rice case, even bringing home flyers. But that's not all.
She said right about the same time that Jimmy Rice was reported missing, that Chavez had removed the carpet, the padding, and cleaned out the entire floorboard of the pickup truck, and then painted the floorboard of the truck. And this is a guy who never cleans anything.
Agents are convinced that Juan Carlos Chavez can lead them to Jimmy. But first, they have to take him down.
We had to immediately think of a plan of action to get this guy safely and to try and figure out where Jimmy was.
You want a happy outcome, but your gut feeling is that something really, really tragic has happened to Jimmy Rice.
Months after Jimmy Rice disappeared near his home,
This book bag.
agents have recovered his book bag in a trailer of Juan Carlos Chavez, a local farmhand. They have to act quickly to arrest Chavez or risk never finding the little boy.
You know, he's coming in literally in a few minutes in a pickup truck, so we don't have control of the vehicle.
Agents and police hide their vehicles on Susan Shinehouse's farm. Around 6:30 p.m., Chavez finally shows up.
He drove in and he came to a stop, put the truck in park, and we opened the door for him, brought him out, quickly patted him down to make sure that he didn't have any weapons on him.
Chavez is eerily calm. Authorities take him into the station for questioning. Later that day, Don and Claudine return from a television appearance in Chicago and are surprised to find the press waiting at the door. A reporter begins to question them.
And she said, Mr. and Mrs. Rice, can you tell us what you think about the book bag? We said, what? What are you talking about? And she explained that some handyman had been discovered with Jimmy's book bag in his possession. And that's when we first found out about Juan Carlos Chavez.
Back at the station, investigators ask Chavez why he has Jimmy's book bag. He has an innocent explanation. Chavez claims he took the book bag for safekeeping when Jimmy left it after feeding horses one day at the farm. Detectives aren't buying it and continue grilling Chavez. Back at the ranch, Agent Lunn walks the property with Susan, looking for anything out of the ordinary.
When I walked over to that area, I saw these 3 very, very large cement planters that just stuck out like a sore thumb. They bothered me a lot because they didn't fit in at all.
The planters are similar to those seen in a vision by psychic Anna Arizaga. Agent Lunn notices a distinct odor that smells like decomposing flesh. Then, he notices the carcasses of several dead dogs.
You could literally see, dog remains spread out through the property, and specifically right around the large planters that have been filled with cement.
Cadaver dogs are brought in, but fail to find any human remains.
We've completed the search of the area. We have not found anything, so it's been terminated for the night.
Investigators are convinced Chavez knows more about Jimmy than he is letting on. A polygraph confirms their suspicions.
We asked him, did you have anything to do with the disappearance of Jimmy Rice? His response was no. Once again, we asked him, did you have anything to do with what happened to Jimmy Rice? No. Failed both questions miserably.
After hours, Chavez begins cracking under the pressure and admits something terrible. He did see Jimmy and claims that he accidentally killed him.
And he told us that on one particular afternoon at dusk, he was closing these fences. He didn't know that Jimmy was behind the truck.
Chavez says his pickup truck slipped into reverse, crushing the boy against the fence. Investigators rush to the horse farm to confirm his story.
I got a traffic homicide expert, brought him out to the fence, got the measurements of how tall Jimmy was, put it up to the fence to the bumper of the car, of the truck that he was driving, didn't match up.
Chavez continues to play with authorities.
Because I knew that I was dealing with somebody that was super intelligent, super cunning. He knew it was a chess match.
My thoughts were that he wanted to talk, but what he did was so despicable that he couldn't bring himself to verbalize it.
Finally, almost 50 hours into the interview, Chavez makes an unusual request.
Can I get some milk?
I'll never forget him saying, "Can I get some milk?" And I knew once he wanted some milk that he had heartburn, that the gas in his stomach was telling him it was over.
Chavez finally reveals the truth. And it's horrifying. On September 11th, Chavez saw a group of boys swimming in their underwear in a canal. It excited him, and he went on the prowl.
Well, he described that he was traveling north on the street, and he had seen Jimmy walking home.
Chavez pulled over in front of Jimmy and pointed Susan's stolen gun. The 6'3" man asked the little boy,
"Do you want to die today?"
When Jimmy said no,
"Get in!"
Chavez forced him into the truck and drove to the trailer on the horse farm, where he sexually assaulted him. Later that day, Chavez says he heard helicopters overhead. When he looked up, distracted, Jimmy tried to escape.
He says that Jimmy ran to the door of the camper trailer that was here in this location, and that he basically shot him and caught Jimmy just above his rib cage on the right side of his back.
Chavez held Jimmy as he took his last breath, then stored the body for 3 days in an abandoned van nearby. He later dismembered the body, placed the parts in 3 plastic 25-gallon planters, and filled them with cement. He killed a few of Susan's dogs to cover up the smell and stripped the pickup truck of any evidence of his crime. The FBI confiscates the planters and finds a child's body inside. Dental records confirm it is Jimmy Rice.
When you're removing a child who was, kidnapped and raped and murdered and then chopped up and then placed in a cement container, there's no training in the world that can prepare you for that. That will remain with me for the rest of my life.
Agents tell the Rices the news they don't want to hear.
They sat the family down and they said, we found a child's remains that's been identified as your son.
Grief-stricken, the Rice family decides to address the public at a press conference.
We had asked all these people to help all along. And we wanted to thank them. And to set the proper tone for how the news should be received and how it was important to us that Jimmy, that this news go out in a positive fashion for him.
When reporters cut off their cameras, many break down in tears. Chavez goes to trial in 1998. He recants his confession and pleads innocent. The jury doesn't believe him and finds Juan Carlos Chavez guilty of kidnapping, sexual battery, and first-degree murder. He is sentenced to death.
Juan Carlos Chavez could have killed other kids that no one knows about, and if he wasn't caught in this particular case, he would have done the same thing to someone else.
We're going to do what we can to make sure no other child in this country ever has to go through the hell that he did, whatever it takes.
Claudine and Don Rice are at President Bill Clinton's side when he signs an executive order making it legal to post photos of missing children in federal buildings and parks. They also start an organization that trains law enforcement in handling child abductions. But the ordeal takes its toll. In 2009, Claudine Rice dies at the age of 66.
Claudine died just as much as if he'd shot her in the heart. She died of a heart attack from grief.
Don takes solace in knowing that his wife and son are back together.
It gives me some comfort knowing that they're side by side and that someday I'll be laid to rest next to them.